I am Halli Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, where along with my partner in politics, veteran White House correspondent Matthew Cooper, we slice and dice all things politics, and some days, Donald Trump, too. On this episode of the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, is Trump losing it? And we don't mean only the election. COVID-19, mail-in voting, Joe Biden's continued surge in the polls, Tucker Carlson, and we're just beginning in our weekly take on all things politics. Oh boy, here we go. Welcome, my friends, and here's where we are this week. We've reached yet another milestone, a weekly event. There are more than 4.6 million cases of COVID-19 in the United States, the largest amount of cases in any country worldwide, more than 154,000 dead, averaging 1,500 deaths a day, 70,000 plus new cases a day. Here in Florida, now considered the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Ron DeSantis is busy raising money for Trump's re-election bid and largely ignoring cries from the medical community and the public to at least issue a requirement that all Floridians wear masks. But it's not just Florida, Matt. COVID-19 surges are happening all over the country now. It's going north, honey. And we have broken all records on top of that on the GDP, and unemployment claims again are up. What a mess. Can we make it to November 3rd? Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Halli. How are you? You sound like you're having a good time.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. You know what happened to me this week? I have to tell you, this is just so fun. I have a really, really, really good friend who lives up about 30 miles north. And, we usually speak once a week, and we've been friends forever and a day. And I've just been so crazy, I haven't had a chance to talk to him. I go to call him the other day, and the phone doesn't work. There's like no phone, like his cell phone. It says this party is no longer. And I mean, he's had this phone number for as long as you and I have known each other. And I'm going, what the hell? Well, of course, he doesn't have relatives. I mean, he's a single guy in his 60s. I immediately assume he's dead from COVID. That's how crazy I am. I called everybody that we know. They haven't heard from him either. It turned out to be a crazy situation that had nothing to do with him dying from COVID. He wasn't dead, but that's how it is in Florida. Okay?
I can imagine. Yeah, sure.
It sounds silly, but you just, everybody here is just like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So let's talk about this coronavirus mess. And I want to start with the fact that Herman Cain, Republican, is gone, succumbed to coronavirus. A man who, was one of those, don't wear your mask, everything is fine and dandy, went to the Tulsa Trump rally, sat next to everybody in his family. Apparently he had cancer. That wasn't supposed to kill him right away. Anyway, a week and a half later, he gets COVID. And the day before he died, yesterday, they had tweeted that they had him off the ventilator. He was doing fine. He just needed a little assistance, and he was dead. And then, as you and I discussed the other day, I call him Gomer Pyle, another don't wear your mask, the Texas congressman nutcase. He also has the virus. Yeah. Who else in the White House has? Yeah, who else has the virus in the White House? Somebody else.
The National Security Advisor.
There you go. Hello. I mean, what's going on over there? What's going on over there? They're acting like, what's going on? This gets between, Matt, the coronavirus and the election, because surely Trump is not so dumb that he doesn't understand that if he does a 180 on this, he can pull it back together, no? Isn't that what normal thinking would be here? We'll get into the virus and all of that, but it does get into the election too. I don't understand it. And, oh, wise men, tell me why he's not pivoting.
Halli, I think since 2016 we've been talking about Donald Trump, trying to make sense of him. Look, I think, is there a rationale for what he's doing? Not really. I mean, I think I guess if you had to impose one on him, you'd say he thinks that if just, people go back to school and work and the economy gets going a little more, that he'll get reelected. I assume that's how he sees it.
Okay, so can I interject there for
I'm
1 second?
I'm not saying it's true.
No, I know and I know that that's not true. What I wanted to interject here is, if he is so stupid as to think that is true, that's how stupid he is.
Right.
You never know what to say when I go down that. No, seriously, it's just stupidity. I mean, come on, he can't be that dumb, and yet he apparently is that dumb. It does not compute, Matt.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, he doesn't even seem especially interested in, the questions of how could you open schools safely in the fall? Where could you open them? I mean, there are some federal guidelines, but it's pretty much every school district is on its own trying to figure out how to do this, or what to do or what not to do. So, look, I mean, clearly he has driven his poll numbers into a ditch. The economy can't really recover until, the COVID crisis is better contained. And, he's in a ditch and he keeps spinning his wheels, and, the mud is flying and the car is sinking. So he keeps gutting the engine.
So I say, I use the word stupidity, which seems not real to me. Nobody could be that dumb, Matt. So I'm going to take you to another place here. I can't believe anybody's that dumb. I just cannot. Ignorant doesn't work. Somebody said to me the other day, maybe crazy, is he trying to throw this election?
I don't think so. I mean, I think he's, put a lot of effort into trying to get reelected. He could have chosen not to run. I don't think he wants a humiliating electoral defeat.
Well, that's going to get us into whether he's going to step down before the election. But I am focused on the fact that no person in their right mind, which is the only other explanation we have, which is he's just buck-ass crazy, literally, would keep walking, into the quicksand.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, clearly this didn't have to happen, and huge opportunities were missed back in April and January and February to contain this the way other countries did. We didn't do that,
and so here we are.
We're paying the price for it. Yeah, I mean,
well, we're not here. We are, but so is he. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think you're asking the right question. I mean, I'm not. It's not in his defense. But, at this point with the outbreaks and such, and given the federal system, we've got, governors that can do whatever they want, containing it at this point would be a challenge for any president. I mean, the problem is that he let, because of his neglect, we got here.
Yeah. So there are 1,000 roads to go down on this one, because this is just how crazy it is right now. You brought up kids going back to school. I think I told you the other day that I'd spoken with a local educator here from the biggest high school, and got an earful. They didn't want me to use their name, so I won't do that, or the high school, but I will say that it was quite a conversation. It basically led to, they have a large Hispanic population and black population. It's about 50 black, Hispanic, 50 white in this particular school, and they are going back 2 weeks later than originally they said, but they've got 40% enrollment for in-class study. Okay. But they were very honest with me. They said they can certainly contain them on masks and make them wear masks, but the school just is not large enough. The classroom's not large enough to safely distance them, appropriately. And they've already had, when they had summer school sports going, they've already had kids infected with coronavirus spreading it to adults. So, the obvious question is, what are you doing there? So that's our job. We have to do what they tell us to do. And here we are. And if you had your choice, what would you do? They'd say we do it completely from home. And,
Yeah.
So I just
think, yeah. I mean, I don't know. The problem is we're making all these sort of, school administrators. We're trying to turn them into mini epidemiologists, and every like school administrator normally has to think about like, cafeteria budgets and stuff, now has to sort of like do their best guess about whether,
it's
the
safe.
kids are going to be like carriers and killers. And the science seems inconclusive on all this. So it's a terrible position.
And more teachers and more administration are above 50 than aren't. So
right. Yeah. No, I think you got an awful situation.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation. But it's not just in Florida, it's all over the country. And yeah, there are pockets where there aren't any of this virus at the moment, but that seems to be short-lived, because if you start to look at the map, places like Iowa, and as a matter of fact, Wisconsin today, Evers declared it an emergency, and put masks in place. Not only outside, Tony Evers, but inside requirement. You have to wear masks inside as well, which is there's no real. I mean, look, there's no social distancing with little kids, and there's no. But that's for adults too. That's for adults too.
Yeah, but I mean, there's going to be no mask adherence with kids. I mean, I think it's. Oy is right, and because of course, as you and I have discussed, the situation in Israel was not good with the school.
Right. That was the test case. So, so that's a mess too. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, you hope the fall does not turn into a huge disaster. Hopefully it won't, but
it's a disaster now.
Who can know until it does?
Yeah, I was thinking this morning after watching Obama yesterday at the was it yesterday? God, every day gets to be the same day. Maybe it was the day before. I don't know. At what's his name's funeral, and I'm thinking, do you remember when Ebola came out and 2 people died and they were ready to destroy Obama over the 2 poor people who lost their lives in this country who actually came from Africa? Already infected with Ebola.
Yeah.
You put it all into perspective, and then you just go, oh my gosh. Another part of this, though, that I find very interesting is I think it was Vanity Fair did a piece on how all this came to happen. Did you see that today by any chance with Jared Kushner?
Yes.
Okay, I could only look at it briefly, but I think what I garnered from it, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that Kushner actually started out with saying it needed to be a federally run response, and then somewhere there was a switch, and some people in the administration decided, no, it's only hitting Democratic states. Let's just go for that and blame the governors, and we'll do it on a state by state basis. Is that pretty much?
That's pretty much what it said. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I find that interesting for a lot of reasons. But go ahead, talk to me about what you have to say.
Yeah, I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, there are a lot of players in the sort of, if you read James Fallow's excellent piece in The Atlantic on all the opportunities missed in January and February, there are a lot of people involved, not just like Jared, that have to
have some explaining to do.
Have some explaining to do, and have and who are involved in things. And it's not like it only landed on Jared's desk.
Well, what I thought was interesting about that piece is that Vanity Fair has always been really hard on Jared Kushner. Jane Mayer has a whole thing with Kushner. She's really not. So I find it really interesting that they were almost defending him, saying no, this was not his bailiwick. This actually was the other people in
Jane Fox. Yeah,
Jane Fox, right? So I find that really, really interesting, and which gives me reason to believe that. It's more likely than not likely. But, Monday morning quarterbacking anyway, I think it's too soon in some respects for that. But I understand why they're going
there.
I
mean, the fact that we're not shocked that they...
Right, right. Yeah, right. Nothing is shocking.
The top administration official would say, let it play out in the blue states. We'll see what happens.
Jeez. I mean, oh, my God. And in the meantime... more on this subject, now the Senate's trying to cobble a relief package together. Unemployment insurance is gone for people, I think, as of today. you're going to have foreclosures. You're going to have people on the streets. You're going to have people not being able to eat. And Nancy gave them a package, almost 3 months ago? And old Mitch is going, well, no big deal. We'll work this all out. They're fighting over a couple $100. Really, this is the new low as far as I'm concerned. This is the new low. This is terrible. This is just god awful. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, really, what's the matter with these Republicans?
But how do you feel about it? How do you feel about it?
How do you feel about it? How do you feel about it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, if this were just like a normal recession, there might be a macro and micro economic question about, a supplemental unemployment insurance package that, makes it more economical for, people to stay home than go back to work. That might be like an interesting question. But when you're in a total crisis, paying people more is not a problem.
No, and can I throw this in? Can I throw this in? Because you'll love this. The more money,
all money that's going to get spent for the economy.
Thank you.
Like I wasn't spend the money on building a wall in the desert or whatever you wanted to do.
It can't hurt him. It can only help Trump because it boosts the economy. And these bozos are fighting about it. Again? See, this is what's starting to happen to me. My brain cannot do this anymore. It's like saying, stop twisting, Halli, because you're not going to get there with them. That's how crazy they are, and you're not. A equals B equals C. It still does, even though they don't act like it does. See, that's what... Does your brain hurt? Because my brain's starting to hurt.
I'm more numb than hurting.
Okay, mine's starting to hurt.
I think it's more numb feeling. I mean, look, it's a crazy thing to obsess over, given how many trillions of dollars we're shoveling out the door.
Right.
Compared to where all these PPP loans went. So
yeah, like I said, it's fascinating that there are people who get this. so that 34% are getting this weirdness. So I don't know. Hydrochloroquine. He comes out with that crap again. He goes back to giving his daily briefings, and he's keeping them short, sweet, and stupid because he's long and stupid, or short. He's short and stupid. But he retweets Stella Emanuel's tweet. This woman from the Firepower Ministry in Houston got her doctorate, became a doctor in Nigeria, and somehow managed to get an American MD certificate. I don't get that one. Who talks about people having dreams, and that's what causes whatever you call it in your ovaries. And
the best people. The best people.
Oh God, Matt. Right? And this is what the President of the United States is tweeting about. I mean, it's unbelievable. And just another thing, they were just as we were going on air, overpaid $500 million for ventilators.
Oh, I'm sure we don't know the half of it yet. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Which goes along with their arguing over $200, for unemployment insurance. So overpaid for ventilators, $500 million. Ventilators, which would not have been needed, by the way, had he contained the virus, and people wouldn't have needed to be on ventilators. But, that takes us to a place that makes too much sense for all these bozos. Yeah.
Well, look, this is kind of a lifetime of conning people, whether it was Trump University or, casino boards or regulators or courts. It's kind of, he's kind of doing his hustling, his whole life, and kind of like,
once a snake oil salesman, always a snake oil.
So, this is just more like, hey, look over here. I got, there's a cure coming in 3 weeks.
But the thing about it is this. Why do so many people buy it?
Fewer. I'd say fewer and fewer are buying it.
34%. I think he's at 38%, 36% or something like that. Is that where he's at? Depending upon what you read. But yeah, maybe. Let me move to this. We're talking about tweets. His election tweet with universal mail-in voting, not absentee voting, which is good, by the way, folks. Mail-in voting, absentee voting, the same thing. This is what he tweeted. 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. It will be great embarrassment to the USA. Delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote, ? My God, even the Republicans went ballistic. Talk to me.
Well, the U.S. has never delayed a federal election like this. Not during the Civil War, not during World War I, not during World War II. We don't do it. We keep the elections going. People mail in their ballots from Okinawa and Verdun and Gettysburg or wherever, they vote. And that's how we do it, and a lot of them get mailed in, and we do just fine. And I think even Republicans knew this was a step too far.
But he knew that this was going to be a step too far, didn't he? He'd been warned.
I think they've all been on it. I think all the Republicans have been on a tear about mail-in voting, and he just took it a step farther than they have done, and even he walked it back. I mean, he doesn't have the power to delay the election.
No.
When his term ends, it's over now,
But this is not about delaying it. This is really about delegitimizing it. And let's explain to people about this argument that you have with Republicans and the Democrats on mail-in voting. Because, by the way, mail-in voting is exactly what Trump has done, I think, in the last 2 elections. But the reason that they're upset about it is because poor people, people of color, Democrats, tend to vote by mail if they can, and they don't necessarily show up at the polls. So, folks, what this is really an argument about is the more people who vote, the more people at home who vote, the more Democrats have a chance to win. So, this is really an argument about that.
Yeah, although a lot of Republicans vote that way. It's just that he's so delegitimized it among Republicans that Republicans who heretofore have voted by mail in states that have robust mail-in programs
are likely not to.
It looks like they're likely not to, which means
that's stupid on his part.
Well, it's stupid on his part. It does mean the late voting is. It does mean the Republican votes are going to get. The election night results are probably going to be more favorable to Republicans than after you count all the ballots after they've come in.
It's possible, but
I still think he's likely to lose, but I mean, it creates a scenario where the first impression is, we'll see what it actually means, but
it's interesting because it does change things. There's no question about that, but it's always been there and it's always worked fabulously well. And listen, we already know that people have tended to hold on to their ballots. The question is whether they'll, not just mail in, but mail in early. Well, because that comes up to this point. The man who was the postmaster general, Trump's friend, number one, has $7 million invested in competing companies to the post office. They've already cut back postal delivery from UPS, and they're trying to slow down postal delivery. The President of the United States put his man into running the Postal Service, a man who has a $70 million invested in competing companies, because it's always been the Republicans have wanted to privatize the U.S. mail postal service. And they've already started to mess with it to make if you do vote by mail, it less likely that your mail-in ballot gets there on time unless you mail it very, very early. Needed to say that because that's part of his game. That's a crook being a crook. That's a snake oil salesman being a snake oil salesman. This guy knows what he's doing. He just does it on the edges.
Wait, you just said he doesn't know what he's doing.
No, I'm just saying on that guy, because that's grifting. He's a grifter. That's what he knows how to do. That part he gets down. He knows how to break the rules. I've said that 1,000 times on this show. Democrats play by the rules, and Trump knows how to play the rules, and he plays the rules. Right. Doesn't mean he's always smart. Obviously, the man's declared bankruptcy 1,001 times. But I thought I would throw that in there since we were talking about.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, the post office operates with all kinds of constraints that are imposed by Congress regarding their pensions and other things. And, a lot of the crisis in the post office is sort of, manufactured.
Exactly. Good point. I'm glad you brought that up because there is that too. They've really been played and mismanaged and managed to everybody's will. You were listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts weekly at hallicasserjayne.com and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on all your favorite apps. You can find the Halli Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device, too. Just say, the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at the Halli CJ Show. I want to go here before we move on because in light of all of this crazy, something did happen last night that I thought was truly a major crack in Trump's wall. And that is that the co-founder of the Federalist Society, Steve Calabrese, called for Trump's impeachment. Did you freak? Well, that's basically what he did. Yeah. Yeah,
he said if Trump. Yeah, if he said if Trump doesn't back down on this, but yeah, I mean he's a super conservative guy. His uncle was the dean of Yale Law School, not a super conservative. He is a very conservative guy. It was very dramatic when he wrote the op-ed saying how serious this was, and how serious it was if anyone supported Trump in delaying the election. I thought he captured the moment. I mean, look, this was too nuts. This was too nuts even for McConnell.
Well, I think the thing that it says, that's the first, he can make deals with Russia. He could change an election by playing the election, and having Putin do everything. Nobody said a word. It's just bizarre that this was the red line in the sand when, frankly, I think it should have been drawn a long time earlier. But this was the one that they all drew the red line on. That's worth a conversation.
Well, I hear you. I mean, he always had a little, plausible deniability with some of the other stuff.
Fascinating how they're.
But yeah, this was him coming out and doing it himself, it's kind of, I mean, I'm glad he got shot down pretty quickly. I'm glad, Well,
we'll see if they stick to it, and we'll see how he manipulates it. Because did he back down? Did you notice whether Trump backed down? Did he say anything on Twitter or anything?
He kind of did later in the day. I mean, he didn't totally back down, but he never totally. He always put a question mark in the first place.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Which would be like, should I kill my husband? And bury the body under the floorboards? Question mark.
Oh, God.
I'm just asking the question. I'm not saying I would do it.
Yikes. All right, let's go to this. It's another tweet. I am happy to inform all of the people living their suburban lifestyle dream that you will no longer be bothered or financially hurt by having low-income housing built in your neighborhood. Tweet.
It was,
ouch.
I mean, it was very Queens 1970s sort of tweet. It was a tweet from kind of 50 years ago in which there was much more concern about, especially in New York and the Northeast, but other areas too, about low-income housing projects getting dropped in the suburbs and, people flipping out about that, and not always for, racist reasons.
It was racist. It was racist.
What?
It was a racist tweet.
No, it was a racist tweet. I'm talking about in the 70s.
Oh, in the 70s. Well, it goes back to his family having problems with green.
Well, of course. Yeah. I mean, that was middle class housing, but it was the same idea.
Well, it's always been an issue whether to allow that kind of housing in white urban areas. That's nothing new.
Not just allow it, but
right. Well, he turned it right. Well, he turned it over. Obama had issued the whatever rule, law, whatever it was, and he threw that out the door. But this is his campaign.
Is coming at a time. It's coming at a time when people think they're going to end up in low-income housing.
True. I hadn't thought about that.
It's coming at a time when people are freaking about their mortgage payments. Least of their worries is whether, people who make even less than them, people who are broker than them are going to show up in the neighborhood. I think it was a play from sort of, Queens politics in the 70s that just kind of fell flat because that's not, the suburbs are more diverse now. So, it doesn't have the same racial punch it did. And B, it's just we're in the middle of a crisis. So, people are not worried about zoning.
Oh, God, what a mess. What a mess.
So I think it just had I don't know. He brought it up in his speech down in Midland this week about the suburbs.
Well, he thinks that there's something there because at his core he's a racist, and so that he thinks everybody thinks like he does.
Well, I think, but it's crazy. They've been hemorrhaging in the suburbs for at least 3 years. They got killed in 2018 in the suburbs. And, if you look at the suburban, winners in 2018, Katie Porter in California, or Mickey Shell in New Jersey, or, Anthony Delgado in New York State. I just, to think you're going to undo them with a little, sort of callback to the racial fights over Yonkers housing.
Well, he does think that, or he wouldn't have done it. That's for sure. Listen, I want to get let me get to polls. Biden 50, Trump 46 in Florida. That actually puts Trump up 2 points from the last poll. Biden up 13 in New Hampshire. It's fascinating. Biden's running ads. By the way, there are so many Biden ads on in this thing. There's no other ads in Florida.
Where you are, yeah. Well, Trump pulled his down. So
yep, and we were going to talk about that too because he pulled them down. But I'm telling you, you've never seen so many ads, and on my cell phone, on my TV. Jesus, it's like stop already! It's too much. But there they are, and no Trump ads. But the polls in Texas are pretty even at this point, but they do seem to be have tightened slightly. Did I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
And they can go up, they can go down.
Inevitably, they will. He's not going to win these states by 10 points.
No. But it is interesting. That New Hampshire that's massive. 13.
Yeah, some of these places are just
like really crazy numbers. I don't think Trump can come back in Pennsylvania. It's another one that's 15 or something crazy number. What do you think?
Yeah, well, look, Biden's way ahead. The polls have been pretty consistent in the sense that Biden's been leading for a long time. I think they inevitably tighten as Republicans and Republican-leaning independents, come home. But
or Biden gets out of his home.
Or Biden gets out of his home, or names, Ilhan Omar, not Ilhan Omar, but, Tlaib, his Veep or something. Look, I just don't, it's a big lead for Biden. And, as Florida, if Biden carries Florida, it's very hard, I think, for Trump to win. So.
Yeah. Well, like I said at the beginning of the show, DeSantis is out campaigning and raising money, and Trump's on his way to Florida today. Why he'd want to come into this state is beyond me. Why anybody would come down here at this point. But he's on his way to do two fundraisers, and DeSantis has been on the phone the last 2 days doing his...
I mean, look at the convention. Look how he screwed that up, you know?
Oh, God, that was just... That's under stupid. I want to see... They should have posted what Florida's numbers are today. Hold on, folks. I'm going to bring us all up to date. Let's see. Are they up yet? Because they may not be up. No, they're not up. But let me tell you what's happening here. We supposedly have a hurricane who nobody can pronounce the hurricane's name, adding to our crazies coming to Florida in the next couple of days. ICISIS or some crazy damn name. I want a Hurricane Halli, by the way, Matt. There's never been a Hurricane Halli.
Really?
So we have this hurricane coming, and so what did DeSantis do yesterday? He closed all the testing centers down because there's a storm, and it's also still off the coast. It's still east of Florida. It's not a direct hit at this point, and it's not coming for another couple of days, but he did. Now, he got shamed into opening the ones on the West Coast, which has got no chance of getting hit at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you know, where are you going to close Pensacola for?
Well, but the point is, boy, let's not test.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah.
Let's not test, because, you know, we test, it's going to be like a bad thing. Let's not test. And, you know, that's how we know these numbers aren't even close to being real at this point. Okay, here we are. 9,000 new reported Florida COVID cases overnight, which is lower than it's been. 257 new deaths, up. That's what's happening in Florida. Yeah, Miami-Dade, 14.9%. Oh, my God. Percent positive yesterday cases was 10.57. The numbers are a little better, but it's a little better because people are so freaked out, nobody's going out. I mean, that's, you know, there's no call to stay home. But I've talked to my friends in Miami and Broward and Palm Beach County, and nobody is leaving their homes at this point. It's just too scary. It's just too scary. So, yeah, those are the numbers.
Not pretty.
Not pretty. I mean, you know, 10,000 cases a day, 9,000 cases a day. That's like just friggin' crazy, is what it is. You know, wild. Let's talk, a couple of weird stories. All right. But first, Trump pulling the troops out of Germany. Let me start that conversation, Matt, with something Nancy Pelosi said that just reverberates in my head all the time. When she said, with Trump, all roads lead to Putin. I mean, honest to God, pulling the troops out of Germany, really? Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal in terms of the, you know, U.S. alliance. I mean, the U.S.-German alliance has been central for, you know, since the end of World War II. And, you know, anything that chips away at that is really important strategically in Europe and globally. So I think she's right to be suspect about it. I imagine, in addition to, you know, catering to Putin, this is this idea that our allies are ripping us off and we're giving away things to them has been animating him since long before Putin, since the 80s, when he started to have a more political face. And I'm sure he probably thinks it's good electorally, you know, and he probably likes that it punishes Merkel for, you know, whatever she's done lately that annoys him. So she's incredibly popular right now, you know, having handled the COVID thing well. And having steered Germany pretty well through all this crisis, you know. So I don't, you know, as damaging as this is to the U.S. alliance, I don't think it's going to hurt her if that's his intention.
Well, I don't think he can pull it off anyway between now and the election.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if he can.
It's bluster.
You know, yeah. I mean, if he's reelected,
that's a different story.
It's still
right. That's not what I'm talking about.
Then it's just the beginning.
Well, because the point being, he can say a lot of things right now and do a lot of things right now, but, you know, whatever he's doing from now forward, nothing's going to be done. Nothing. I saw that he tweeted that he had 10 million, put 10 miles on the famous wall over the weekend. I highly doubt that's even true, but okay. In other words, he can say what he wants to say. We can go back and check him and do whatever. Here, he did speak to Putin, by the way, and swears
the problem, of course,
he didn't mention
that nobody wants us, right? Yeah.
Nobody's coming to the United States anymore either.
Well, they won't let us into their country.
Right. But who'd come here in the middle of a pandemic? That's there's that too.
Exactly.
Trump spoke with Putin and never said a word to him about the bounty on the troops. Boy, one of these days soon, we're all going to see what these calls really were about. That'll all leak. I quickly want to talk about Michael Flynn because that was amazing yesterday. They're going to have this hearing in front of all of the circuit judges.
The entire DC circuit, yeah.
Yikes, that's wild. That's going to be showtime.
Oh, yeah.
A very left-wing court, by the way. And I doubt very much they would have taken this all on, all of them, if they together hadn't discussed how pissed off, you'll forgive my language if that's something to be forgiven for, this overturning by bar of Flynn's conviction.
Yeah.
This really must have ticked off these judges.
Well, I think so. I think it's so unusual what came out of the Justice Department. And, Merrick Garland was the Chief Justice.
I forgot that part.
I believe he still is.
Yes. This is
a Justice
payback
Department, Justice Department veteran from terror cases. I think he's
Merrick Garland. For those who don't know, was up to be on the Supreme Court, and McConnell would not let him have a hearing on to become the next nominee because he said it was too close to the election, and that was a year before the election. God forbid Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies. You can be sure they'll be in that meeting the next day, putting a conservative on the court.
Or if Clarence Thomas quits.
Right, exactly. So you got to put all this in perspective. Yeah. You got more to say? Did I interrupt you? Again?
No.
Okay. So I just think that's a story. And when's that supposed to be heard?
Flynn not out of the woods.
No. And I don't think he should be out of the woods personally, but that's just me. I want to talk about John Lewis because we did lose an icon of the civil rights movement, of just an incredible human being. We all know that. He was buried the other day. 3 presidents there, none of them by the name of Trump. He did lie in state at the Capitol. Everybody was there, not Trump. He refused to pay his respects. I don't think we have to say anything more on that subject, do we? That says it all.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. A little thing that might interest you. Shades of J. Edgar Hoover, Homeland Security is keeping files on journalists. Hello? You know about that?
Yeah, well, I saw the story, yeah. I mean, looked like they were using a sort of counterterrorism, tracking list that normally used to, follow Carlos the Jackal or whatever, for instead to use to follow, Jonathan Capehart. I mean, it's like, it's kind of unbelievable. I mean, it's nothing that these folks will surprise you, but it's crazy.
God, that made me laugh. Gosh, what an image that is. Michael Cohen's going to be allowed to publish his books. That kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
Because I thought that when you're a prisoner, you're not allowed to do that stuff. I was always under the impression that you can't do books when you're in prison until you're out of prison. And he's not really out of prison. He's on home arrest. But anyway, his book.
Yeah, I think you can. I don't know. There are different state laws about getting the money from the book, but I think you can write them. Well, he's writing away, and it's going to be out just in time for, right? Can you wait? Yeah. That would seem to have some potential. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be but of course, can he do appearances like by phone, by audio, video? That's an interesting question for the Bureau of Prisons. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Well, if it's not him, he'll send out a surrogate, so it'll be just add it to the list. Right, add it to the list. I just want to say to you that I did something last night that I don't ever do, and I caught a few minutes of Tucker Carlson because I just find him to be just don't like the guy. I never liked the guy. I watch it. You do? I watch it. I had a it's wild. What did you think?
first of all, he said that Obama was, quote unquote, one of the sleaziest and most dishonest figures in U.S. political history. I didn't know that he suffered from histrionics, Tucker Carlson, but apparently he does. I thought he is absolutely off the wall. Again, I could not twist my brain to go where he was taking his audience. It wouldn't go there.
Yeah, it required a certain. It's like eating snails, or it's an acquired taste.
Escargot, by what's designed. He was not off the wall years ago. He was a conservative, and I didn't agree with him on a lot, but he wasn't off the wall. He's off the wall, in case you hadn't noticed, Matt. He's like conspiratorial. It was like he was speaking in tongues, and I didn't know that language.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, because it's pretty wild watching it when they, I've done it one time.
He switched, right? He took off the bow tie and he became somebody else.
Yeah, even from, 6-7 months ago, his whole affect is different, It was sort of like kind of, frat boy snarkiness before, and now it's kind of just, the little Alex Jonesy kind of.
Yeah. So
deeply worried and conspiratorial.
Is that something that's Fox? That Fox that you get to Fox and suddenly you just become nuts?
Well, I think his ratings exploded when he went in this direction. I mean, they were already good, and then they became the best in the network. And you get a lot of positive reinforcement when you do that.
Well, he's trying to be Rush Limbaugh with a little bit more class. It's funny. I was listening to Limbaugh yesterday. I hardly do, but I was in the car and I was listening, and I said to myself, he was incensed over the fact that they're going to do this hearing with the judges in the district. He was insane with it. I thought, this guy's not dying. That was all a hoax, because he had more energy and was screaming louder than I could scream in my best day into that microphone yesterday. Good Lord, he was freaked out. So yeah, the shock jocks are just shocking away. Shock. Okay. Last story of the day, because this is pretty disgusting and bizarre, but this Ghislaine Maxwell, her documents were released yesterday. Did you see that?
I did not. I mean, I very quickly.
Yeah, well, this is not a story that's going away, Matt. So I don't think, even though it's sleazy and disgusting, crazy, that we can just ignore, because there are a lot of very famous politicians involved in what happened on that island of Jeffrey Epstein's, and those poor young women, girls, really. But there were a lot of redactions of names, but you could figure out who it was and yada, yada, yada. But Alan Dershowitz was definitely where he said he wasn't. And Prince Edwards and Prince Andrew, and apparently, there's conversations about Bill Clinton bringing 2 young uns to the island. But this is like, the United States is going downhill, because this is something you know about in Great Britain, who are notorious for men of great power, having these weird sex things going on. I mean, it's, historical in British lore. And
sure.
Here we are now. I have a very good friend. I'll tell you about, look, a sideshow. I have a very good friend whose father was the Minister of Defense for the UK back in the day. She and I spent a lot of time together, from New York to LA. Quite a lady. She's a brilliant, brilliant woman today. But I remember picking up the New York Times and learning that her father had been found to have had an affair with some young thing and walked out on the mother. And she didn't call me about it. I happened to open the New York Times that day. It was like watching the World Trade Center get blown down. It was that startling to me at the time. Yeah, the Brits are notorious. He was the Minister of Defense, for God's sakes. Anyway, long story short, this is a mess. And this is going to bring all sorts of people, certainly Mr. Trump, into the orbit. And I'm hoping it comes out before the election. That's what I hope.
let justice be served.
Let justice be served. So we leave on this note. We leave on something called the vice presidential stakes. Who's number one on your list today?
Something called the vice presidential stakes.
The beat
Who's number
stakes.
one on my list?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's Kamala.
You don't?
Now I don't think it's Kamala.
Because?
I think he wants total loyalty. I think he wants a Biden. He wants someone who's going to do for him.
He wants a Pence. He wants a Mike Pence.
Well, he doesn't want an obsequious. He wants someone who's honest in private and super loyal in public.
Okay, well, those are two other
not
traits that are
the
not
presidential race the first day. And I think he probably sees a little too much of that. I think he wonders, given this report this week that they were pissed about Harris. I don't know. I guess the sort of Susan Rice stock is probably up a bit.
Interesting this. Did you know that Trump gave tons of money to Harris on her re-election bid in 2014? That would be interesting to have to say, well, I gave money to her because. So anyway, there is that in there too. I think Harris
but maybe it's her.
Is wonderfully, I hear what you're saying. I'm going to end on this and just say that, look, she's a very attractive woman. She's got a lot of spit and vinegar. She's got a great laugh. She's got a wonderful personality. She's not a complete idiot. She knows how to use her voice to do whatever. But I do think she's a loose cannon, and I do think she's not serious enough. Now he may find that a good for the Times is what I'm saying. What'd you say?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, she's a little girly. She's too girly. Whereas Rice brings great gravitas to the job. And if they're really going to go with, let's get things back together and let's get a little bit of, pomp and circumstance back into, our politics and our White House. I don't see her. So I don't know. But we'll see, because we're going to learn this week.
Probably.
That's what he said.
Tomorrow.
Could be.
Could be a week from now. Don't know.
No, he said it's going to be this week. Coming up. He promised. So there you go.
The week beginning on Sunday.
Yeah. That's what he said.
Okay. Well, then they've tended to do these things on Saturdays, so that would,
On Saturdays?
Okay.
Why is that? Are you serious?
Well, generally they've been done on Saturdays. That's when, Romney rolled out.
Oh, I never thought about it. I don't know why Saturday. Aren't more people paying attention during the week? Of course, we're all shut in, so what are we going to do, right?
Well, you dominate, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Stay tuned.
See ya.
See ya. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a production of Resec, LLC. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, and is available at hallicasserjayne.com and on all your favorite apps. Be sure to visit us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and follow me on Twitter at The Halli CJ Show. Until next time, this is Halli Casser-Jayne.